Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Jason Mackey's First 10, your quick hit podcast to get you ready for the day. Today's episode, it's a by request sort of thing. We're going to do our first mailbag. That's going to be fairly consistent on Friday. Just as a reminder, as this thing keeps going, we're going to play with some format things probably after the draft, going to tweak a few things, but just feeling it out, seeing what you guys like. Obviously, if you like or hate something, drop me a line at jmackeypg on X, jmackey at Post-Gazette, post-gazette.com via email. But again, we are sponsored, as always, by the North Shore Tavern. If you love baseball, you'll love the North Shore Tavern. There are appetizers, entrees, cocktails, and, of course, steak and seafood on a sizzling lava stone. You don't have to love baseball to love the North Shore Tavern, frankly. Open every day across from PNC Park. North Shore Tavern is Pittsburgh's home for steak on a stone. So got a lot of great questions here. I hope we're going to be able to get to all of them. We're going to try. All right. Benjamin Glazer at WV Pitt asked, do you think there's a point where folks are just going to get burned out with all the content that we're seeing? And I was like, I got this question and I was like, am I putting out too much content? Is the Post-Gazette putting out too much content? I said sports in general. I don't think people are going to get burned out on sports, Benjamin. I actually think it's remarkable how much people care. It's the same idea that people tell me nobody cares about the Pirates. It's a total lie. They do care. And I think it's, nobody's getting burned out. What's the timetable for Skenes? Asks M. Decker, Dr. MJ Decker at Dr. MJ Decker, I should say. I don't think the timeline for Skenes has adjusted. I get asked about Paul Skenes a lot. I've said mid-May. I'm sticking with mid-May. I think I know we're seeing that there's nothing for him to be gained in AAA. This isn't the challenge for him. They need to get him up here. That being said, they have a plan that has been carved out long ago. He's talked about it. The Pirates have talked about it. And it has in mind his long-term arm health. I think to a degree what they're doing is actually fairly smart. I wrote a column about this week. If you look at pitchers' arm injuries, everybody is being more and more cautious. I hate it to a degree. It doesn't matter that I hate it. They're still going to do things. And Skenes, if you look at his innings limit, 122 plus some change in the minors last year, he's probably not going to go above 150. Where's he spend those 150? Right now, they're basically saving as much as they can in the minor leagues to use them in the major leagues later. I don't have an issue with that. You can say, oh, he should be up here now. Okay, well, if he's up here now and you adhere to baseball culture, you're going to lose him at the end of the year. So I'd rather keep him at the end of the year and lose the time now. And so it's just a very, very slow buildup. I realize everybody's excited to see him. I'm excited to see him, but not quite there yet. Alan Smith at Alan SMI and a whole bunch of numbers says, how many Penguins do you expect to be traded or let go from the present lineup? Will the Penguins sign a first-class defenseman? Will they drop Malkin? Could you see the Penguins trading Crosby and starting a rebuild? All right. A lot of questions there. I'm going to start with the last part first. Could you see the Penguins trading Crosby and starting a rebuild? No. For better or worse, and I would never trade Crosby. That's a different discussion. For better or worse, it seems like they're certainly hitching their wagon to riding it out with this core. Crosby, Malkin, Kris Letang, Erik Karlsson even has been adopted as part of this core. I get it. I think you owe those guys a certain amount. I mean, not when you don't make the play. You don't just like let your franchise crater because of those guys. But I would look at the Penguins and sort of see and raise you. Those aren't their biggest issues. Even as bad as Evgeni Malkin played at times, was it really that abhorrent for a center, a number two center, theoretically making $6 million? If you take the names off the back of the jersey, I mean, yeah, you'd like to have some performance that's better, but I mean, it's a lot worse. There are other areas I would focus first. I think they're perfectly capable of being a better team. I just, personnel wise, that's not where I'd go. I think they need to figure out what the situation is in goal. I'd like to see them get more depth scoring. This isn't personnel, but why the heck the power play is not a threat? Mind-blowing to me. I realize that Malkin, Letang, and Karlsson have all been culprits of this, but you should be able to play with a lead. I mean, this team has played with the lead before. Those guys have won Stanley Cup. It's not like you get to a certain age and you just get dumb. Like that's not it. It's reigning in habits. And if you want to make the argument that Mike Sullivan needs to go, I can see it. I think it's another direction that the Penguins aren't going to be willing to go. But yeah, it's I would go those other places before I say want to trade one of the big four. As far as who I would expect to be traded or let go from the present lineup, Riley Smith makes sense. I don't see the fit. I don't see the fit for the money. I'm not sure there was ever a fit, but you're going to have to do some stuff. Yeah, he's one. Ricard Raquel is somebody I might look at. The value is not high. So, I mean, that's if you're not getting back anything back in a trade, it doesn't make sense. But the emergence of Drew O'Connor was a good thing for them. Obviously, you're going to keep Brian Rust next to Evgeni Malkin. I really liked Michael Bunting next to Evgeni Malkin. And, at that point, you're left with, do we go with Ricard Raquel or do we try to, switch it up a little bit? I'd like some more production from that third line. So if they're able to sort of merge some of those things and surround Lars Eller with somebody who's actually going to put the puck in the back of the net, I think that would help them or deepen their lineup. So, just a couple things on that front. John Taylor at WV Pirate asks, Gonzalez, Bay, Peguero, all hitting well in AAA. What do you think the future holds for each? I don't know, which is a very unsexy answer, but one that I have to give a lot covering baseball. We don't know. I think they have futures. I would rank them probably Peguero 1, Gonzalez 2, Bay 3 in terms of how I feel about their futures. I really like some of the skills that Hwan Bae has. As far as consistently getting on base and doing things in a consistent way to help out a team, I feel less good. It's a terrible use of that term, but less good about Bae than I do the other two. I do think Peguero is going to be in the lineup eventually, maybe for the Pirates, maybe for somebody else. I think there's some pop there. He defended a lot better in spring training. Gonzalez is a bit of a conundrum. I mean, he is hitting well in AAA. We're talking about the 2020 number 7 pick. He, at this point, probably should be in the minor leagues or in the major leagues. He's getting lapped by some people, and if not now, when? I've liked what I've seen out of Jared Triolo, though. O'Neal Cruz, I think you got to let him ride it out. So what are you going to do? Are you going to bring him up in a substitute role, have him on the bench a lot, or are you going to let him keep playing in AAA? I think I'm probably going to let him keep playing in AAA. I guess you could maybe turn them as trade bait, but again, we just don't know. You don't know health-wise what people are going to do. Maybe it gets very bad with Jared Triolo. Maybe they do flip the switch and bring one of those guys up there. Interested to see what's going on with Key Brian Hayes and the low back tightness that kicked him out of a few games. So there's plenty there. Chris Laverty at Lav Daddy. What topic are you most looking forward to hearing Kyle Dubas talk about in his press conference Friday? Several. I think we have a couple kernels for the goaltending situation. I'm interested in hearing Dubas talk about the head coach. I mean, I don't think the Penguins would let Mike Sullivan go talk to the media and do all this stuff and then fire him the next day. And they clearly have a reason for keeping Sullivan and keeping with so much continuity. I just want to know what it is. I don't know if there's anything that Kyle Dubas is going to say that's going to change my mind, but I'd like to hear when you miss the playoffs in back-to-back years, and you're spending to the cap, and you have some of the talent the Penguins do. Granted, that's not all Kyle Dubas' fault. I'm not saying it is, but the continuity is going to be a fairly significant theme, I think, from what Kyle says. How do you explain that? How do you rely on running it back when running it back has not worked? So I want to see him sort of put those thoughts together. All right, Dakota Smith asks, all sports, when do you think Paul Skenes comes up? Could it be as late as the All-Star break? Who do you think the favorite is for the Steelers' first-round pick? Who will be their wide receiver 2 after the draft? A lot of questions, a lot of good questions. Want to get into that. I got to the Skenes stuff a little bit before. I don't think it'll be after the All-Star break. I think you're going to see him in mid-May. Who do you think the favorite is for the Steelers' first-round pick? Got into this with somebody the other day. I am very in team center camp. To me, that is the most glaring need that they have had. I could probably be convinced if the right tackle is there, but Jackson Powers Johnson, if he's there, the center from Oregon, I'm jumping all over that. The other argument that I've heard that I don't totally hate, if you can maybe trade down and still get a premium center like Zach Frazier from West Virginia, I would be good with that. Either way, I want them to address their offensive line in a big way. Wide receiver 2 after the draft, that intrigues me. If it's I didn't know if I read this part of the question. Odds of trading for Brandon Aiyuk. I hope they're good. I'm not as plugged into that as maybe Jerry Dulac would be, the beat people covering the team. But I love the idea of that trade. They need somebody. You can't roll into the season the way they're currently constituted and allow George Pickens to be doubled. They need somebody to take attention away from George. And I like Malachi Corley from the draft. If that's somebody, like, to me, you get him as a number 3 kind of yak guy, but you need another number 2 and somebody else to help Russell Wilson out, get him over the middle a little bit more than he's done throughout his career. And I think you probably go free agency. Again, if it's Aiyuk, awesome. But I don't know if it will be. Who's the Pirates hitting coach in 2025 at ME1377 and a whole bunch of numbers? Asks, I mean, honestly, probably Andy Haynes. I have no reason to believe they're looking to move on from Andy Haynes. I'm not reacting to this early season. They did not have a good road trip at the plate. I'll put it that way. They did not have a good Mets series at the plate, but I think they are executing an approach that makes sense. We've seen progress out of them. I think the reality with the Pirates offense is it's neither as good as it was at the beginning of the season nor as bad as it was in New York. The truth is somewhere in between. So I don't think that's all Andy Haynes' fault. I think it's a lot Derek Shelton's doing. And at least going into 2025, I'd probably say it's Haynes. All right, a couple more. At BRIKON, Brickon412 asks, what Pittsburgh sports team wins a championship next and when? I believe Dr. Joe Starkey has claimed the Pirates for 2027, so maybe I'll go with that. Yeah, it's tough to argue with that. Why not? Maybe I'll go Steelers 2027 just to be a little bit different, but it is tough, man. And this falls into the category of we just don't know. I don't think there's any way to say, but it's dark times around here. And I'd say probably the Steelers get, rebuild, retool enough to actually get this one, but that also feels crazy given the lack of playoff wins over the last handful of years. I don't feel great about the situation that the Penguins are in, and is trying to retool and get this group to a Stanley Cup. I guess you could say the Pirates might be able to actually do what Joe is saying with this core. I think there's a lot to be excited about with Skenes, Jared Jones, Bubba Chandler, et cetera, the young pitchers. But we're going to say they're winning the World Series. We can in a funny way, but I don't know if we can in a serious way. Mike Edwards at Mike BC Edwards asks, is an April win worth the risk fans wanted to put Jared Jones through? I'd argue yes. I would. I think we can have this discussion, and Mike is asking, this will be our last question, but Mike is asking about pulling Jared Jones after 59 pitches, 50 for strikes. The Pirates go on to lose the game. I don't think it's wrong for the Pirates to care about Jared Jones's arm. They should care about Jared Jones's arm. And I think there's going to be times where fans are disappointed, where they find out, hey, he's been shut down. We're skipping a start. We're going to have a limited pitch count, whatever. I don't understand being as obstinate as the Pirates were with this. He's basically putting out there a historic start in terms of efficiency, strike throwing, all that stuff. Let him go. Let him go. And then I've made this argument before. If you let him finish the start, and let's say he goes, 90 some pitches, 8 innings, no walks, 10 strike, whatever it is. And then after the game, you say to the media, FYI, we were supposed to skip Jones, or we were supposed to be done with Jones after only 5 innings. We let him keep going. The win's important to us. We've said that, fans should expect winning, and we expect to win too. But as the manager of this team, I also need to care for this young man's arm. So I'm just making sure it's communicated that at some point we're going to have to back him down and just be as transparent as possible. They talk a lot about all innings are not created equal, which is fair. And in that game, 5 innings did not equate to 5 innings another way. And I guess if I would say that a second iteration, like if he goes 5 innings and they're struggle filled and he throws like 79, 85 pitches, that's not nearly the same as 59. Like that's an arbitrary line that you've created. Now, I give them credit for making a plan and sticking to it and not moving off it no matter what. But I do think there was a little bit of wiggle room that they didn't necessarily take advantage of. All right, that does it for our Mailbag Friday. Sorry, this was a little bit longer than it usually is. But we will be back here on Monday morning for our 5-day-a-week podcast. First 10. It's always fun doing these and improving daily in figuring out what you guys like. So again, shoot me a note. If you have any ideas, make sure to like and subscribe. You can catch all the videos from our Post-Gazette hosts and reporters. And talk to you guys next week.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.